What's up, everybody? Ryan here. I am one half of Tharby Dragons, and we're doing something a little different today, something I've kind of wanted to do for a while. And we're going to be playing some Skyrim, but with the release of the special edition, the remaster, a lot of people are getting into Skyrim for the first time. And it's huge. You can't go anywhere on the internet now without seeing videos and articles and everything else about it. But if these, if it's bringing in new people, if they're anything like I was back when the original came out, I didn't really know much about the Elder Scrolls. I knew very, very little. I had played a tiny bit of Oblivion. But when I got into Skyrim, I really didn't learn much of the story. I kind of got in, I picked up a, I think my weapon was a two-handed hammer until I got the Mace of Molag Bal. And I cracked heads all over Skyrim, and I had a blast. Hundreds of hours, 2, maybe even 3 complete playthroughs. Well, complete as in, like, finishing the main stories, developing a character. But I never really got the story, so I thought maybe talking about the story a little bit might help some of the new people coming in to help get a little more invested, because you're going to be making some decisions here. And I think if you know the story, it might help a little bit with the, I guess, the importance of the urgency. You'll notice I am not playing the special edition. I've got the original with some mods. Things are kind of looking the way I want them. If you want to know what mod does what, then I can tell you, just ask. But if you've never played before, you know you're starting, your hands are tied, you can't really see them, and you have no memory of who you are. All they tell you is that you were captured trying to enter Skyrim through Cyrodiil. Well, Skyrim is a province on the continent of Tamriel. Tamriel is a continent on the planet Nirn. It's not the only continent. There's Atmora, Akavir, Yakuta. But Skyrim is the northern province of Tamriel. And Cyrodiil is where the Imperials, these lovely gentlemen and ladies in the red, that's where they call their home, their capital. At the beginning you can pick the Imperial race, that's them. And then you notice these dudes in blue, they're called the Stormcloaks. And they are, the Skyrim home team, I guess you could call it. There's Tullius talking to a Thalmor. But what does that mean? I think Skyrim, because it was meant to be so accessible, kind of gave you the Stormcloaks as, here's the rebellion, they're fighting against a corrupt empire, Star Wars, gotta support the rebels. And even if you didn't know any of the backstory, you could very happily support them and play through the game. And maybe you would go back and pick the Imperials next time you played through. But why are they fighting? What is this civil war about? Why are you in this wagon about to get your head chopped off with these guys? And Mr. Horse Thief here, who never ever fails to never ever get away. So we'll just talk a little bit about the Civil War, I guess. We'll ignore the dragon attack, and we can talk about the dragons a little bit later. But I think the Civil War is kind of what most people consider the driving story in the game, even though the Return of Dragons is really a much bigger deal. So this is Elder Scrolls V. Elder Scrolls 4 was called Oblivion. In the game Oblivion, you basically were, same story, you start out in a cell, and what happens is the Empire had been around for 400 years. In your cell comes the Emperor. His name is Tibur Septim. And you, through an interaction and some shenanigans here and there, you end up getting caught in the tunnels in the prison, and the Emperor dies. Which is pretty bad news because he doesn't have an heir. Well, at least he doesn't know that he has an heir. Oblivion story short. So Oblivion, what it was there are planes of Oblivion where these naughty gods live, and they tried to take over Nirn. They tried to take over the moral realm, and is he going to make it this time? Go, dude! I got faith in you! You can do it! Nope. They tried to take over Nirn. So these gates, they kind of look like the symbol for pi, opened up all over, and all these Daedra, these, essentially, if you want to think about it, like demons, started pouring through the gates, and they were winning. Through the course of the game of Oblivion, you find out that Tibur Septim had a son named Martin Septim. You rescue him, and at the end of the game, Martin Septim, he basically sacrifices himself to close these Oblivion gates and save the planet, save Mundus, save Nirn. And all is good, but what happens when you lose an emperor and you find his long-lost son? Hooray, you've got an emperor. Oh no, the son is dead again. Is now you've got an empire, a 400-year-old empire that doesn't have a head. You know, you need to have someone in control, especially if you've got a very large empire. You need to have somebody in control. So what starts happening almost immediately is it starts to fracture a little bit. Now, there's a place called the Somerset Isles, and it's where the Altmer, you're going to hear M-E-R as a suffix a lot of times. Mer just means elf, so Altmer, Bosmer, Dwemmer, Dunmer, that sort of thing. It just means elf. So the elves and humans have never gotten along, and down in the Somerset Isles there was a especially supremacist group called the Thalmor. Now these Thalmor were complete elves first kind of people, and what happened is nobody knew that Martin Septim had sacrificed himself to close the gates. So these Thalmor said, hey, that was us. We saved the world. We closed the Oblivion gates with our Thalmor magic. And people were so ecstatic that the world wasn't oh, that blood's brighter than I remember. They were so ecstatic that the world wasn't really going to end that they just went, yeah, cool, well done, Thalmor. You know, good on you guys. But by the time people kind of sobered up from that feeling of exaltation, they started to ask questions. But by then, the Thalmor had already seized control. They had already squashed... was that a dragon? They'd already seized control. They'd already squashed all kind of opposition, and they were in control. And the Somerset Isles ended up seceding from the Empire. And after that, Blackmarsh, the home of the Argonians, the ones that look like lizards. Don't call them that. That's very offensive. Blackmarsh seceded. Elsewhere, home of the Khajiit, the ones that kind of look like cats. Don't call them that. It's very offensive. They also seceded. Morrowind, which is, hey, right on time. Really, be a really short game if you didn't show up each time, Alduin. Morrowind, which is just to the east of Skyrim, and also where Elder Scrolls 3 takes place. Come on. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Oh, I need to put a little caveat. Every now and then you're going to see the game might jump a little bit. That's because I'm going to do it now. I'm going to hit quick save. You know, so because Bandicam, the leading cause of death in Skyrim is NPCs in the doorway. So if you see a little or jump or something, that's all that was. So anyway, Blackmarsh and Elsewhere have seceded. The Thalmor have basically convinced everyone they're responsible for the victory at the Oblivion crisis. The Argonians invade Morrowind because Morrowind, once again, just to the east, is pretty much a disaster area. There was an asteroid that had been suspended there that, through the events leading up to it, it ended up crashing into Morrowind into Vardenfell. And when that happened, the volcano in Morrowind kind of went off, and the place was just coming to pieces. And the Argonians, who had been enslaved by the inhabitants of Morrowind, decided this was a good time to invade. So the Empire was just coming apart. You could almost watch it. Hey, dragon. You could almost just watch it happen in real time. So, about 7 years after the Oblivion crisis, someone finally stepped up. Am I supposed to be following you? Why are you taking so long? About 7 years after that, someone named Titus Mead finally was able to take control and claim to be the Emperor. But I really think it was a case of too little, too late, probably. Titus Mead, by the way, if you have played through Skyrim, you know you encounter Titus Mead too. Most of you probably know... Hey, buddy. Most of you probably know Titus Mead II through the Dark Brotherhood questline. I won't give away any spoilers on that. But, yeah, same lineage there. Nice jump, fella. So, Titus Mead steps up, but it's kind of a case of too little, too late. You know, the Empire had cracked and provinces were just coming to pieces left and right. So, the Thalmor, during this time, convinced Valenwood, another province province full of elves to secede from the Empire. Here, by the way, is your first choice in the game. You can follow Hadvar the Imperial, or you can follow Ralof the Stormcloaks. I am going to follow the Stormcloaks simply because they, you know, the Imperials were trying to cut off my head. So I'm going to remember that sort of thing. So Valenwood seceded. The Thalmor, you know, these supremacist elves really smell blood in the water. You know, elves and man have never really gotten along. Lots of story there. You know, a couple genocides. But what's a couple genocides between mortal enemies? So the Thalmor basically march right up into Cyrodiil, remember, just to the south, and they march into Imperial City, right up to Titus Mede II, the one that you know from Skyrim, the game. And they basically say, you guys, you're no match for us. As elves, we can waltz in here and just absolutely wipe man off the map. So we're going to offer you some terms that just didn't go down so well. The terms were, first of all, that man had to, nice. We had to stop worshipping Talos. You're going to see a lot of Talos. We can leave that save off for now. You're going to see a lot of Talos throughout the game. If you are a Nord especially, Talos is one of the 9 divines. There are basically 9 gods that are worshipped. If you are an elf, there are 8. Oh, hey, wait. Actually, I need that lantern. Yoink, for my lantern mod. There are 8 divines. So the elves, rather offended that... yeah. Wait, where am I going? What's going on here? Where is everybody? I can't leave? Get this gate open. Oh, here we go. Gosh, you act like I never played. So the elves march up and they say we have to stop worshipping Talos, which if you are a man, that's a pretty big deal, because Talos is the one divine that used to be a man, a human. So we're going to take all the Empire stuff. So that was a huge deal. They also required that... we'll keep the Stormcloak Curious on, and let's dual wield for now. I think I'm going to try a sword and shield on this one. Maybe some magic. Gosh, I don't know. So that was one of the terms, the biggest of the terms. The second one was that the Empire would have to give up portions of Hammerfell, another province. If you see red guards in the game, they're the ones with the darker complexion. That's where they kind of hail from. And then the third was the disbandment of the Blades. Now the Blades were... the elves hate the Blades. The Blades were very good at killing elves. So Titus Mede II said, no, this is not going to happen. There is absolutely, positively no way we are agreeing to these terms. Let there be war. And man call it the Great War. The elves call it, I think, the first war with man, or the first war. Yeah, I think the first war with man. So clearly they've got more in mind. So the war kicks off, and it is bloody and gruesome, and the Empire draws warriors from Skyrim and from Hammerfell and from everywhere, and they fight and fight. The elves are winning. I'm going to do a little quick save mumbo jumbo here, so if it breaks, forgive me. You know, the Empire pulled in people from all over, and the elves were winning. You know, it was not going supremely well for man, and the elves end up marching into Cyrodiil, and they take the Imperial capital, the Imperial city. They take it. The Empire, the legions are either destroyed or nearly destroyed. The elves, you know, they're not doing so hot either. They think they've basically won. Ah, what up, heavy armor? They think they've basically won. But it turns out that Titus Mede II was very clever, and with the help and sacrifice of a whole bunch of Nords up here in Skyrim, they were able to take back the Imperial City. I'm going to favorite some stuff right now before I go any farther. Favorite you, favorite you. And what kind of magic am I working with here? Let's see here. Favorite you, favorite you.
Done.
But Titus Mede was able to rally the troops. The Nord sacrificed greatly, and they were able to take back the Imperial city. So now, the Imperials are... or the Empire is just completely bloodied at this point. The Elves are far from home, and they are also... I mean, they're tired. It's been a very long kind of war, and they're far from home, so resupply is not the easiest thing in the world. So, a truce. The Elves basically say, alright, you know what, fine, you got us for now, but look, let's be honest, we can come back, and we can just take this place. So, why don't you sign this truce? Now, the truce, it turns out, was the exact same truce that they offered, well, pretty much the exact same truce that they offered 5 years ago. But this time, the Empire basically had to accept. They really didn't have much of a choice. So they accept the terms of this treaty. They ban the worship of Talos, which you see a lot of the effects of that in this game. The Blades are disbanded, which you can see in one of the quest lines in this game. What do you got, buddy? I can't decide. I always say I'm going to do magic, and I never do. Maybe today's that day. Nah. They actually gave up the entire province of Hammerfell. Well, Hammerfell was completely offended by this, and it makes total sense that they would be. Hammerfell had donated men and resources to protect the Empire, and specifically the Imperial city, and then the Imperials just turn right around and give up Hammerfell to the Elves, to the Aldmeri Dominion? No. So the Hammerfell actually rejects this treaty. It's called the White Gold Concordat. It's a very popular concordat. It's called White Gold because the tower in Oblivion, if you've seen anything from the game Oblivion, you've seen the White Gold Tower. But Hammerfell just rejects it, and they fight. They basically say, we're not going to be a part of the Empire anymore. Hey, where are you going, buddy? Oh, you're the good guy. They say we're not going to be a part of the Empire, and we are most certainly not going to be given away to these elves like some sort of prize. So they fight back, and they win. They win their freedom. They are not a part of the Empire. They are not part of the Aldmeri Dominion, the elves. And once again, it's just another cut. Another one of the 1,000 cuts the Empire has to suffer. So the people of Skyrim are kind of upset. They're big fans of Talos. You know, he's one of theirs, first of all, which is, you know, hugely important. He's one of ours, you know. Wait, did that say a silver? Imperial silver cape? I can do better. You know, Talos is one of theirs. He was a man. He was a Nord, more specifically, who was kind of lifted to divinity. I'm going to go grab some of that other heavy armor, I think. I think we've already kind of decided what playthrough we're going to have here. So let's get this Imperial heavy stuff. So the Nords are already pretty offended, and it's kind of they're right on the tipping point. The Nords up in Skyrim are right on the tipping point of having enough of this whole Empire business. But to their credit, if you want to call it that, they do stay loyal and they do remain in the Empire. But it takes one incident out in Markarth, which you get to visit in the game. And out in Markarth, a group called the Reachmen, you know them as the Forsworn, they took over Markarth. The Empire, because Skyrim is part of the Empire, they just didn't have the manpower to do my little quick save here. They didn't have the manpower to fight back, so they asked a gentleman by the name of Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak. I know. What a name. Ulfric is the Jarl, basically like the governor of Windhelm. His father was the governor before him. Ulfric fought bravely in the Great War with the elves, and was actually captured at one point, and the elves tried to convince him that information they got from him caused the fall of the Imperial City, and little interesting facts here and there. But the Empire could not... Let's see if I remember how to shoot this bow. Probably not. Huh! And I got it on tape. The Empire couldn't do it, so they asked Ulfric to kind of take care of this problem for him. So Ulfric says... Oh, forget. Okay, well, you saw the first one. That's the one that counts, right? You guys, don't run in there. Full of spiders. Full of spiders. We're so lucky. Hey, guys. So Ulfric goes in there and he frees Markarth. Now, part of the deal with that was that, you know, okay, I'll do this for you guys, but you have to let me worship Talos. This is a very important thing. So the Empire says, you know what, fine, whatever it takes, just do it. You know, get these Forsworn, get these Reachmen out. So Ulfric goes in and he does it, and there's a tiny bit of a massacre. Stories are kind of iffy if it was Ulfric or the Jarl of Markarth, but basically everybody that wasn't for the Stormcloaks and didn't help was disposed of, I guess would be a really interesting way to put that. And oh, Achilles. So he takes Markarth back, but the Empire isn't able to keep their promise. They promised Ulfric and Markarth that you'd be able to worship Talos. But the Thalmor, once they heard about this, the Thalmor said, you know, that's not how that's going to work. And the Empire was in no position to push back, so they basically had to kind of kowtow to the elves and go back to Ulfric and Skyrim and say, hey guys, remember that whole Talos thing? Nah, you can't. You still can't do it. So Skyrim at that point, a lot of people had had enough. They had absolutely 100% had enough, and they needed a leader. Well, Ulfric was naturally in that position, so they just needed some way to kick it off. So they kicked it off. Ulfric ended up challenging High King Torygg to a one-on-one duel. This is, in the Nord ways, this is not something the Empire or the Imperials recognize, which is why in the beginning Tullius calls Ulfric a murderer. But to the Nords, while it's not the prettiest way, because Torygg was a politician, he was not in any way really prepared to fight somebody like Ulfric, especially because Ulfric could speak dragon, he could shout. So the duel takes place, and it goes exactly as planned. The one-on-one fight ends with Ulfric shouting Torygg to the ground, and then ending him rightly, you know, sticking his sword right through his tummy-tum. And that's it. So the Empire now considers Ulfric a murderer. The Skyrim is kind of up 50-50. You know, do we stay with the Empire? Do we secede and do our own thing? And you have to admit, it's a pretty difficult... Ah, man, I don't know why I did that. I always feel terrible afterward. It's kind of a pickle. It's really kind of a pickle, because when you look at it, kind of... One of the things about the Elder Scrolls games, in Skyrim too, not that they're any different, is that things are not black and white. There's always that other point of view. And the interesting thing is, both the Empire and the Stormcloaks want to save Skyrim. That's the end goal of both of them. They want what's best for Skyrim. But they kind of disagree on what's best for Skyrim. Both of them want Skyrim to be full of Nords and blonde and happy and tough and rugged and snowy. But in order to do so, you can either choose to side with the Empire, which is kind of crumbling at this point. They essentially betrayed you. They betrayed Skyrim after signing the White Gold Concordat, because Skyrim worships Talos. And after Skyrim paid so heavy a price to protect the Imperial City, the Imperials just gave away the one thing that the Nords one of the things, approached from Mead, that the Nords take very, very, very seriously. So Skyrim feels betrayed. So it's tough. You can't side with the Empire, but the Empire feels like if Skyrim breaks away, anybody else want a limp? If Skyrim breaks away, then you're kind of weakening against the elves. The elves can come back and they can just, you know, together we stand, divided we fall, that sort of thing. So it really... I see you, butterfly. Give me your wings. So it's really quite the decision that the player has to make. There's actually 3 choices. We'll get into the third one really quickly. The third one's a truce. Okay, basically you can negotiate a truce by trading cities. There, that was actually very quick. So you can side with the Stormcloaks. The Stormcloaks want Skyrim to be free of the Empire so they can worship Talos, someone that they cherish. They don't want to be forced to listen to these Thalmor, these elves that they've been fighting and dying, fighting for so long. They don't want to be forced to listen to what they want. And they want to do that by becoming independent. They want to break away from the Empire, just like Hammerfell, and they want to do their own thing. They don't want to start a war with the Empire. They just want to be kind of left alone. You know what? We helped you. Cheers. We're out of here. Hey, there you are, Rally. Welcome to Riverwood, by the way. Beauty, beauty, beauty of a place, huh? The Empire, on the other hand, not really even on the other hand. It's like on the other side of the same hand. They want what's best for Skyrim. They want Skyrim to be free, but they also want Skyrim to be a part of the Empire. Being a part of the Empire means the Empire can now draw from Skyrim, obviously, but it also means that they are a bigger, more intimidating sort of enemy. If they separate the Thalmor, the elves, well, I mean, if they separate, the elves could come up through Cyrodiil, because the Empire and the elves have a treaty now, and just attack Skyrim. They could even request that the Empire provide some troops. My goodness, you're short. Oh yeah, I have the height adjusted for races. So the Empire doesn't want to let Skyrim be independent because of what it might be forced to do and what it might mean for Skyrim. And if Skyrim falls, the Empire, the Cyrodiil can never stand on its own. So, whoa, easy there, warp speed. So they both want the same thing, it's just how they're going about getting it. So you're really kind of stuck with a tough choice. Does Ulfric really want what's best for Skyrim, or is he really the murderer that the Empire claims he is for killing High King Torrig? Is there a right decision? I don't think there is a right and a wrong decision. I think it's really a matter of which one can you live with. But don't forget, while you're wrestling with this decision, the Thalmor are sitting back watching the Imperials and the Nords in Skyrim fight each other and kill each other, which means there's less Nords and Imperials for the elves to come and fight and conquer when they do get here. So the Thalmor are in no hurry for this to be resolved whatsoever, because we're doing their dirty work for them. Either way, Imperial or Stormcloak, if you decide to charge into Solitude, or if you decide to charge into Whiterun, whichever one you decide, you're doing the Thalmor dirty work by killing men. So you also have to remember that this civil war is doing, just by it existing, no matter which side you pick, is actually benefiting the Aldmeri Dominion, the elves. And sorry, I keep saying Aldmeri Dominion. Obviously, if you play ESO, you know about the Aldmeri Dominion. That was about 2,000 years before this game. The elves, once they kind of seceded with the Somerset Isles, and once they took Valenwood, they renamed it the Aldmeri Dominion again, in remembrance, in homage, or whatever you want to call it. I can't think of words right now. To kind of invoke that strong elf heritage from the past. So there you go. There's the Civil War. Once again, it's the Civil War if you're just normal. If you're a Stormcloak, then it's the Great Uprising. If you're an Imperial, what are you doing, man? Excuse me. If you're an Imperial, then it's the Stormcloak Rebellion. But you have to decide which one of these is better. Now, there are a whole bunch of other small factors. Is Ulfric doing this just to become High King? I really don't think he is. If you talk to him, it doesn't sound like it's just a power move. It sounds like he really does want what's best for the Nords. And if you talk to Rika, the Imperial, she also... Ah, yes, I would love everything you have of value. Thank you. She also demonstrates that she has a care for Skyrim. So both of them honestly want what's best. But which way are you going to go about getting it? And how can you do it without giving up so many lives that the Thalmor just come in and sweep up the remnants? Okay, keep talking. You may notice I've got a zoom in here. That's something I really liked when I played Oblivion, so I got a mod to do that. And my text, I know I've turned down the opacity, but you can see my text is also in a different font. So, you know, those are some fun things. Anyway, there's the story of the Civil War. So here we are in Riverwood. We are about to go to the Riverwood Trader and start our adventures in Skyrim. This went on a lot longer than I expected, I'm sorry, but it really is an interesting topic. And I think you do need to hear the history from Oblivion up until now to kind of put it all in perspective as to what this all means. So hopefully it was entertaining. If there's anything you want me to talk about, or if you have any questions, if I wasn't clear, or if there is something about the game you want, maybe it's too bright or dark, just let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate you listening in. I'm looking forward to any input you guys might have, and I guess that's it. So thank you ladies, thank you gentlemen, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.